Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first edition of CHS Sports Weekly. I am your host, Bryce Dowd, with my co-host here,
What's up?
Jacob Spence.
Yep.
For today's show, we are going to do a quick recap of what's been going on for the fall sports season of Chesterton High School teams. And then we'll be featuring an interview with Chesterton High School head football coach, Mark Peterson. This past week, Chesterton Trojans, as they wrapped up the final regular season game Friday, October 14th at home against Maryville, winning with a score of 35-10. Sebastian went 8 for 11 passing with 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hayden DeMarco with a huge interception and returned it back for 66 yards, almost having a pick six. Hayden DeMarco also had a 47-yard kick return. Brady McCormick ran in 2 touchdowns. Garrett Lewis led the receiving with 3 catches for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. Defense was incredible, only allowing 10 points to a 7-2 Maryville team. Coming back from this loss they had a couple weeks ago against Crown Point, 41-21. Crown Point's one of the top teams in DAC. To come back and beat Maryville, who is in second right now in the DAC, that was a big comeback for them. Any thoughts on you for this, Jacob?
I mean, yeah, Crown Point undefeated and 16th in the state of Indiana. That would have been a really hard win to pull off. We did pretty well, 41-21. So it's not like we got shut out flawlessly, but still a tough game. Bounced right back, Maryville 35-10. So that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was impressive. Going back to the Crown Point game, I mean, they had it. They had it for a while. They just gave up too much momentum flippers there for them. All right, going away from football now. Girls soccer, they lost in the sectional final 2-1 to Crown Point. It's a good overall season for girls soccer. I mean, as Chesterton, you're always expecting to, like, somewhere around state, but losing to Crown Point isn't that bad because Crown Point's
really good this year.
Crown Point's
really
really
everything.
Yeah. As we move on to boys soccer. Boys soccer lost first round in sectionals to Penn, 2-1. Penn scored game-winning goal with 9.6 seconds left on the clock. I mean,
that's truly just getting lucked out.
That's
just good play.
It happens. I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good season. I think they ended up before the sectionals, they were ranked like top 5 area in the state.
Yeah.
It was a great season.
Just an unfortunate series of events that were at the end of the game that led to them getting that goal.
It just happens.
Hate to see it.
All right, moving on. Girls varsity cross country. They finished 4th place at sectionals. That's not that bad.
I don't know much about cross country, but 4th place.
I don't know much either, so.
Runner up on the podium. That's pretty good.
Boys tennis fell to Penn in the regional championship.
We're falling to Penn a lot this year, aren't we?
Penn's always good at everything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, again, it happens. Regional championship's really good, though. So
Solid season.
Girls volleyball loses to, guess who? Crown Point. 3-0 in sets in the sectional finals, or semifinal, my bad. I mean, from what I've seen, it looked like a good season for them. But a rough couple of weeks for Trojans.
It's either Penn or Crown Point that's kicking us down. We gotta get revenge next year. But all around, good seasons from all of our teams. You know, sectionals, semifinals, sectionals again. Like basically all sectionals, we're just getting unlucky in these plays. Like in the boys soccer game, 9.6 seconds left on the clock. That's just ridiculous.
That's
walking
tough.
Off that field must have sucked.
Oh, it had to have.
That even reading that does not feel good at all.
I mean, I play baseball, so like when I get walked off on, it's the worst feeling.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad.
That's rough.
All right, and for this week, actually tonight, we have the first round of football sectionals tonight at Ames Field at 7 p.m. against the Michigan City Wolves. Chesterton seeking revenge for Chesterton's loss against the Wolves on September 2nd. And also they're seeking their first ever sectional title. Any thoughts on that, Jake?
Well, if you remember in week 2 or 3, we played Michigan City at home, and they won. Michigan City won by a field goal with 12 seconds remaining.
It was something like that.
It was something like that. So, if we play exactly how we played, minus the field goal at the end of the 4th quarter, I think we could pull away with this. Because up until that point where they played us, Michigan City had not won. They won their first game against us. That gave them momentum for the rest of the season. So if we play good, Michigan City is a team we could beat.
I think we should handle Michigan City. I mean, that was earlier in the year. We weren't playing up to our full potential. Right now, we are playing really well.
To beat Maryville?
To beat Maryville, especially, who's 38th in the state. Coming into the game, they were 7-1. 7-1. Coming into the game. But our defense was on a different level in the last.
They showed up. They showed up and shut them out in that game.
It's been great. Hopefully we should beat Michigan City. And I'm kind of hoping for a Chester and Valpo sectional final here.
That would be low-key interesting. Get some revenge from earlier in the season, sorry. Earlier in the season when Valpo beat us.
Yeah.
But they beat us by a considerable amount. So, revenge, get that going again. Get revenge on Michigan City. Come back next week, get revenge on Valparaiso,
Little revenge tour here for Chester.
Revenge tour, you love to see that.
All right, and first off, before I play this interview, I would like to thank Coach Mark Peterson for coming in and to talk to me. It was fun talking, Yeah. WDSO Sports would like to welcome Coach Mark Peterson into the studio. Thanks for coming in today, Coach.
Absolutely, Bryce. Glad to be here.
Coach, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your coaching style?
Yeah, absolutely. This is my 10th season here as a head football coach at Chesterton High School, and really had a great opportunity to work with just quite a wide variety and range of players over the past several years, and really have an awesome group to work with this year. I guess you could probably rank some of my coaching style as in very player-dominated, player-oriented. I always want to try and do things that are right by the kids. I think ultimately as a head football coach, we have to take certain things into consideration on who gets to stay with the program, who has certain responsibilities within the program, and those are the common things. But I think ultimately I always try and bring a whole nother perspective where students have some real life experiences. They can develop an understanding of real life experiences from their football opportunities, and in turn, hopefully that'll help them grow and mature as individuals as they move on into adulthood and turn into great husbands and fathers.
All right. What aspects of being a football coach do you enjoy most?
I think ultimately having the opportunity to work with kids. I've actually been coaching now for 36 years, and whether it's been at the collegiate level or at the high school level, probably the greatest and most rewarding thing that comes back is those interpersonal relationships that you're able to develop and grow over time. Watching individuals go from, being 7th and 8th grade kids when they're over at the middle school, not knowing how to put pads in their pants, to, coming in they're coming back in as a senior and being, an all-conference performer. Those are the exciting things, but also seeing those guys that just physically grow, not just physically grow, but also emotionally grow. Even if they're not a starter or a full-time player, really watching those kids just grow and develop is really an important component to, I think, some of those experiences.
What do you think are the strengths of the CHS football program?
In the off season we talked. So we came off of a season at 7-4 last year. We lost 9 full-time starters on defense, and probably arguably one of the best quarterbacks out of the region in a long time in Chris Mullen. We talked in the off season about ownership and kids stepping up and taking a leadership and an ownership role. I think our senior class has really done a fantastic job of that. In the off season, we talked at a variety of times about what they needed to do to improve to reach those levels of maturity, of leadership. And in January, I probably called them all out and said, we're not a very good team right now, and you guys have to make that happen. And my hat's off to them, really having done a great job of building I think a great continuum, a great team mentality. Our seniors, have a bunch of different characters, and I mean that by, we have a group that's really interested in outside sports other than football and lacrosse and baseball, and a variety of individuals that are focused on just football, and then some students that are interested in, really outstanding students. And I think this senior class is an even mixture of character and integrity, to the point that I think ultimately we've seen these kids really give us an opportunity from their leadership perspective to win football games. To say that we are 4-5 right now and unfortunately lost 3 by a total of 12 points is very encouraging and very exciting as we gear up for the playoffs and heading into the sectional playoffs. but also encouraging from the leadership and all of the potential that we've started to reach because of the leadership from those seniors. You sometimes plant seeds along the way and wait for things to grow, and I think ultimately these guys have really started to grow and develop into some awesome leaders and doing a great job as a result of that.
Yeah, and playing Michigan City early in the year, it was a tough loss. I was there. I was in the booth. How do you game plan your team to beat them this time?
Yeah, for sure. I think ultimately we had some opportunities. We missed some opportunities on offense. Defensively, we really did a pretty decent job. We threw a pick 6. So if we were able to take that away, gave them possession on the last drive that they drove down and kicked the field goal with 12 seconds or so to go. So from a couple of different perspectives, defensively, we did a really admirable job the first time around. I believe that we'll do that again. One thing that I'm really proud of, and I'll just throw this in here, is the development of our defensive guys. To have to replace 9 of those guys with really Keegan Wrigley and Devin Sane back as more of the full-time players from last year. Those guys have really, embraced their responsibilities. Our coaches do a great job and have done a fantastic job, and Coach Bamber, Coach Snyder, and Coach Floyd and Coach Warren have done a fantastic job of getting them to believe. But ultimately, at the end of the day, believe in their own abilities. But at the end of the day, it's those guys that have really come together and really formed a close-knit group. And here we are back in kind of a similar situation where this is a good group playing defensive football. So, you talk about and you ask a question about what do we have to do to make this win happen against Michigan City in sectionals. Offensively, we're going to have to hang on to the ball. We did that in the first half. Second half, we actually turned it over on downs too often, too fast. Unfortunately, Ethan Troy went out at the beginning of the second half with a separated shoulder. And just his departure really opened, I think, some windows for them to run some different defensive schemes that could stop us. They put extra pressure on the ball when we were passing, and they actually did a pretty good job of stopping our run. So from that perspective, I think look for us to come out and look to run some ball control kind of offensive schemes. We'll throw when efficient. We'll throw efficiently and when needed. And then I think ultimately on defense and special teams, we'll be looking to get off the ball and play good, solid, aggressive defense, and we'll still be aggressive on special teams. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Beyond wins and losses, what expectations do you have for your team?
I think character. You've heard me mention it already. Character and integrity. Some real cornerstones, I think, of individuals, that are in our program, that I have for our individuals in our program. It's easy for us to go through the day with all of the social media distractions and the ease of what might be perceived as high school academics. I think at the end of the day, we want to stress the importance of academics. We want to stress the importance of character and integrity, and keep all things in perspective. We could be undefeated right now, and I'd still be stressing the importance of keeping perspective. Unfortunately, we're 4-5. And I'm still stressing the importance of perspective because, while it could be or it might be, we know where we're at. And now for us to be able to continue and to prepare positively to the highest level and come into the Michigan City game and really strive to get a win, we've got to be focused and we've got to be prepared. And I think those cornerstones of character and integrity are going to help us, reach that as an athlete as well as an individual. It isn't... Not every kid gets an opportunity to go play in the NFL. Not every kid gets an opportunity to go and play college football. And so, we want to make the best of these days. And but we also want to learn from these days and really gear up for the remaining part of our life. That's really going to be the important stuff. Being a dad and being a husband. Those are the important components for us.
And as a coach, how do you mentally prepare yourself for a game or practice?
I think, we as coaches have been doing this for quite some time. There's some great preparation. A lot of times we get to that point heading off into the week. It's busy, it's stressful, it's anxiety filled, trying to make sure that you don't skip something, don't miss something. You go back and watch film 100 times. But by the time you work your way through Thursday and Friday, it gets a little bit more relaxed. Now it's the fun stuff. Now you get to go out and play and perform in the game. Still stressful and anxiety filled, on the sideline, and each play, everything hangs on one play. It's not like basketball or baseball where you have the opportunity to really change things really fast. But I think we as a coaching staff have melded well. I think I have probably right now the best coaching staff that I've ever worked with in my life, at the high school level especially, and probably even collegiately, and ultimately just a wealth of knowledge and really some good people. And from that, our guys have been able to generate and develop some of that same, goodness, for lack of better terms, where I think we're heading in the right direction, and really excited about continuing to expand. But I don't know if there's a means by which I try and get ready or anything. It's it turns into a repetition and a typical work week, and then Friday night is payday.
Can you give us a short season recap and what is left of the season to look forward to? Yeah,
we started out obviously there on offense. I'll hit some offensive stuff to start with, and really a great opening game against Hobart. Hobart came in ranked 4th in the state in 4A, and we did some things that I don't think they expected us to do, and kind of ran the ball with great efficiency, and we were able to walk out of there with a W. Went to Warsaw and played against at that time a top 6 ranked team in 6A, and they ended up scoring a touchdown there at the very end on an interception and pick 6 return for a touchdown, but it was really a 17-7, 10-7 ball game a better part of the way, and we actually led through a better portion of the third quarter. So, right there, a lot of really right there kind of games. Started off, I should say, that would be the first one of our right there games. Michigan City, a 3-point game, turned around with another 3-point game against LaPorte, who, I don't think I felt like we played probably our best game either on offense, defense, or special teams against LaPorte. Not to take anything away from them, because they completed some passes. They ran some good schemes that caught us off balance a little bit, especially on offense against our defense. But at the same time, I didn't feel like we played our best. And then to turn around and play, a Valpo team that, still I think they're ranked 8th or 9th in 5A is still a highly ranked team, and to have ourselves positioned to drive down and score the winning touchdown, minus the clock running out and all of that stuff. We've been in a lot of games and given ourselves a chance, poised ourselves to be able to win some of those games. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but at the same time, that turns into a great learning curve, especially when you're talking about having 8 of those guys or 9 of those guys on defense to really be in that full-time responsible role for the first time. This is going to pay off for us down the stretch. Already has, with a great win the other night against Maryville, but also in these sectional playoff games. I think this has been a great learning curve and opportunity, not only on defense, but also on special teams, offensively, on offense as well. On special teams throughout the year, we've had some inconsistencies, but really in the past 2 weeks, we've really started to establish and get ourselves more prepared and even performed even better than we had previously in the season. So I don't know that it's a matter of everything coming together at the right time, but I feel like, Friday night was one of those situations where that was probably the best all 3 phases have played throughout the season. So, we'll gear up, we'll get excited and be ready to go next week. This week off is bye week is good because we'll have an opportunity to refocus, but also physically recover a little bit from some of the bumps and bruises, and get everybody ready physically as well as mentally for the playoffs, for the playoff run.
And 2 weeks ago, you guys went out to Crown Point, very good Crown Point team. You had it for a little bit, and then they just ran away at the end. How do you get your team to bounce back the following week and beat Maryville like they did?
Yeah. I think ultimately keeping your eye on the prize. I told him after the game against Crown Point, I didn't know if I should be upset, if I should be, emotional, if I should be excited, if I should be frustrated. That was a really good football team that we played. Not a great football game against, but still felt like we were right there. We fumbled the ball on the first opening drive down to the 12-yard line, and have an opportunity to go and score, and we end up fumbling, losing possession. We turn the ball over twice inside of our own 15-yard line, making them, giving them a short field, and then we gave up a touchdown return around the kickoff that hasn't happened in 15 years. I couldn't even tell you the last time that it happened. So, from that perspective, take all of those things, to be upset about or to be frustrated about, but then to say, if we remove 2 of those, we're in that ball game at a 21-21, or even we could be potentially leading in a 28-21 basis. So, I think every week we certainly go back and reevaluate from the previous week. I think, remaining consistent as the head coach, you try and you try and give kids that continuum of what do we got to do, where do we got to go, and what do we have to do to get there. And ultimately, that was just another refocus for us. We talked long and hard and quite a bit about really the opportunities that we had, but now we have to take advantage of those. And I think, again, that some of that really comes from our own growth and our own development. And this is a great group. This is I've said that. You can go back, and if you taped me every year for the past 10 years, I'd probably say this is a really good group. And I've been very blessed to have a lot of guys that have created opportunities to be a good group. This is a unique group. They're unique in that they have probably the shortest memory of anybody I've ever worked with, and I say that very positively because it really didn't matter what we did against Crown Point. We turned right around and went back to work on Monday in preparation for Maryville. And I expect that for these next 10 days as well as we prepare for Michigan City. We talked after the win. That was cool. That was awesome. But that doesn't mean anything until it means something in like a regional opportunity. But we have two other steps before we get to that point. And so we have to take care of those steps before we can ever get to, feeling that same thing we did on Friday night.
And keep going with this pregame ritual stuff. Does the CHS football team have any pregame rituals they do to help keep themselves hyped up for game time? Yeah,
I think ultimately we go through some very similar processes. Coach Snyder over the past 2 or 3 years now has come in and gives us a go time kind of pregame pitch, get everybody focused, and we do lights out and some energizing kind of conversation or discussion, I guess, if you will. And then we get, a little amped up in the dark and get fired up, and we break and we take the field. I think that a lot of pregame stuff is awesome. Lots of people talk about pregame being that was so cool, or, we did those things. Pregame is, I think, one of those things that's unique. The kids have to be prepared for pregame through the previous 6 days. And or 5 days, I guess, Monday through Friday. And if they didn't have a great focus on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, it doesn't matter what really gets said in that realm. If they're not physically as well as mentally prepared for the game, doesn't matter what happens in that last couple of minutes. Those big pregame speeches and energizing kinds of things last for about 30 seconds until you take the field, and then it's game time. The whistle blows and the ball's kicked off, and now we got to go perform. And so that's exciting. Those are the memories that lots of guys get to hang their hats on and take with them. But I think ultimately the guys enjoy that. It's a lot of fun. And we've had pregame situations in the past where the guys actually did it all on their own. In 2015, when we won the conference championship, they had their own pregame ritual, and they did a couple of different things and just in the locker room, and came out to a couple of different songs that meant something to them, and that's all parts of it. So just a variety of things that go into some of that mental focus and some of the execution associated with it.
And I know this year we've heard Hell's Bells and Enter Sandman.
Yeah.
Which one do you think would use if we go to the sectional championship and we're at home?
I don't know. We'll have to see. They've talked a little bit about Drake and a couple of other things with, a couple of different singers as well. I'd say probably Enter Sandman. That seems to be the primary one.
I like Enter Sandman.
Yeah, it's a good one. Gets everybody a little fired up, even the old crowd like me and everybody in the stands. Yeah.
Every time I hear that, I think of the Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Or like Mariano Rivera coming out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for sure.
What do you believe the biggest highlight of the season has been?
That's a tough one. I think there's been a variety of things, from our opening win. So, let's go back to the Hobart week. We've played them now. This is the 5th season that we've played them. And every year, unfortunately, the team that has been the visitor has won. Now, that rivalry used to go back a whole lot of years prior to the other 8 or so, 6 maybe or so since we had stopped playing them when they left the DAC. But I think that was one of the highlights, having an opportunity to open the season with a win against the number 4 team in the state. Clearly one of the great highlights as a team, I think is really having the opportunity to win. Probably the first time ever Mr. Nallenweg, our former athletic director, contacted me on Friday night and said, I think it's the first time we've ever beaten a number 1 ranked team in the state in football. So, I think that's definitely a highlight. So I guess I'm skipping from the beginning right to the end, but there's been some personal highlights in between, in and out of there. I've been really, I think personally speaking, I've really had a lot of enjoyment and pleasure having the opportunity to coach my son, who's a senior this year. That's been an exciting one for me personally, but I think ultimately for me as the head football coach and dad, I have also had the opportunity to coach a lot of those guys who I kind of consider like my kids, because I've been around those guys for so long. So it isn't just my son Tyler. It's like my son Keegan and my son Kat and my son Isaiah and my son George. It's been a lot of fun in that regard. So I think those are a lot of highlights, if you will. That's a little personal. But we've had some great performances. Hayden DeMarco with almost a pick six the other night and a couple of huge returns. Danny Govea with a ton of tackles already, I think at 107 on the season this year. And Sebastian has really stepped in. Talk about some great leadership and some great integrity. Didn't start right away at the beginning of the season. We still really theoretically have a 2-quarterback system, whether people realize it or not. Sebastian's done a great job in a leadership role of really doing what we need to do to win football games. And I think that's kind of speaks volumes for where we're at with this group, both on offense and defense. And, I think Devin Satan's done a great job, had some great highlight moments as well with some strip sacks, and Isaiah Fowler, both on offense and defense. So there's been quite a few highlights. It's a lot of fun. And it's going to be an exciting little continuum here over these next couple of weeks in preparation for Michigan City, and we'll see how that one goes. And if we're lucky enough and fortunate enough to continue, then we'll take it one more week, and then we'll take it one more week. And when we get to that football banquet, it's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of tears, and a lot of laughter. So that's probably what it's really all about. Those are the highlights.
And so, going back to Sebastian, how has his development reached to do you think he's at his potential, or do you think he's still got a lot more room to grow?
Yeah, I think I think the really neat part for us on offense is we haven't reached our potential. We've got some opportunities ahead of us here where there's going to be some various things from a run package with our offensive line group or on a pass package with our receivers and Sebastian, even Brady in that mix in terms of the run and the pass. I think ultimately Sebastian has done a great job in overall development, emotionally, but also physically. For him to jump out of that JV role last year, where Saturdays are very different than Friday nights, and sometimes on Saturdays you're running to save your life as a quarterback, and I don't mean that negatively. It's just part of the reality, because you probably didn't have enough time to rep a lot of blitzes that the team might be throwing at you from the front. And so from that perspective, he's started to develop, I think, that personal confidence, that pocket presence, and being able to deliver a pass and really make some decent reads. I think his reading ability and some of our RPO stuff has developed to a higher level than it was at the beginning, and that's really helped him to establish himself as more of a full-time guy at the quarterback position for us as well. Really, he just continues to grow, and I'm excited to see where he can go with all of this.
What piece of wisdom do you hope seniors leaving your program part with?
I think when you do something and make a commitment like play football over the course of a period of time, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years, or some of these guys have been 7 and 8 years, including their Pop Warner days. And I think ultimately, if there's something to take away, it's take away the experiences that you've learned. There's always going to be a life experience, sometimes in the failure and sometimes in the success of what you just went through. And being able to realize that, I think ultimately, you can always have an outcome. You can always change an outcome by your personal, your personal efforts, your personal perspectives. Remain positive, and I think ultimately at the end of the day, I think those would be some of the things that I hope they're able to take away as they head off into adulthood, and then also all of those lifelong friendships. It's football is a little bit different than any other sport because we go for basically 11 months out of the year and only get to play 10 games. That's not counting the playoffs or the continuum of the playoffs. We only get to play 10 games, not like basketball with 24 or baseball with 35 or whatever they are. It's a finite amount of time, and it takes a lot of time to that goes into the preparation for that team success. that's kind of like life. We go through a lot of things to watch our child grow into the first year and into the second year, and really being able to keep perspective and learn from those experiences now so that we can learn from those experiences even better later on is, I think, a huge component.
All right. I got one more question.
Please.
How do you feel about going into this Michigan City game in sectionals?
Yeah, very excited. Really, really excited. I think our guys are. So we talked a little bit about kind of the snowball effect. Once it starts rolling and building, it just gets bigger and bigger. And we're at that point right now where we're probably playing some of our best football on offense and some of our best football on defense. And Friday night was an example of that. We cannot let down from that. And for us to be able to have those successes going into the Michigan City or then the sectional championship against either Valparaiso or LaPorte, we've got to be able to match those levels of performance, and we have to do it on a consistent basis. Every night is the last night, and so there's those are going to be real telltales as we progress. I'm excited. You're not going to get me to say, do I think we're going to win or do I think we're going to lose? Because, as a head football coach, I think we enter every game with the intention to win, and we're going to prepare like we're going to win. So from that perspective, we've got to do it all that night and take on everything that Michigan City can throw at us, and they will. They're a good football team. Coach Phil will get those guys all ready, and they'll be ready to go as well. So we'll have to come out and have a great night, and then we want to be able to take care of the first one before we ever start thinking about any second or third ones.
Thank you for coming in.
Absolutely, Bryce. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Trojan fans, it is almost time for winter sports. And if you didn't know, basketball is coming up. Make sure you cheer your Trojans on the court so they can repeat DAC champs again. Hopefully they can get all the way like we did last year to state. That was awesome.
That was amazing.
The CHS Maroon and Gold scrimmage is Saturday, November 12th at 6 o'clock. The scrimmage shows off the skills of the 2022-2023 basketball team as they face off against each other. The first regular season game is Saturday, November 26th at home against Elkhart, starting at 6:30. And normally Elkhart is a solid basketball team, so I think that's going to be a great game.
An interesting first game for Chesterton.
I think we should see a lot of new offense style from the Chesterton Trojans as they lost senior guard Travis Grayson last year, who was our leading scorer by far. I think you see a lot more of Tyler Parrish and Justin Sims show. I'm hoping OG shoots the ball and gets confidence early and it gets hot late. My bad. OG is Owen Guest, for those of you who didn't know. I'm hoping he could shoot well. They got to play solid defense. That's what Chesterton did really well last year, was play really good defense, and they worked on it all the time. Yeah. That is one of the things they worked on all the time was defense. The Trojan basketball team will once again be led by Coach Mark Urban. Possibly be seeing an interview with Mark Urban coming up. Who knows? You have to find out.
Yeah, we gotta get him up here. We gotta get an interview with him.
I hope I can. Also, I like to say, Trojan basketball, they are gonna put it down your throat. I mean, that's what they do. It's the style of play is run until you can't, and they gotta be able to adjust. I mean, they don't have senior guard Travis, who last year was big,
phenomenal.
I mean, the Valpo game, for instance, 60 points total. Travis had 40, and the go-ahead free throws late in OT, and we won 60-57. That was a great game, and Travis took control, which is what a great player does. A great player takes control in the big games. You know, in state, we ran into a really, really, really good Cathedral team. I mean, they have outstanding players such as Xavier Booker, who is the number one power forward / center in the class of 2023. He's going to Michigan State. Very solid player, and obviously impressed somebody big in Tom Izzo. But again, Cathedral was really good. Chesterton, I don't even know if they played that well. I mean, it could have just been like different level of competition, but it was not pretty for Chesterton. But again, Cathedral was a really good team. We'd like to see hopefully a repeat of last year, and hopefully we come up on the victory side this year.
Yeah, maybe the nerves just got to him. You know, Cathedral's a really good school. Like, people all around the state of Indiana know how good Cathedral is. They have some good players. So maybe some of that was the nerves, some of that being that it's broadcasted on TV, all that good stuff. So repeat for this year, only this year could win it all.
We'd love to see that. And also, don't forget to tune in to WDSO for live coverage of tonight's football game against Michigan City at 7 p.m. If you're not cheering for them on in the stands, thanks again to Coach Peterson for coming in and talking to me about the team, and a special good luck to the CHS football team. And stay tuned, because in 3 hours is the first round of sectionals, and you do not want to miss it. Also, I would like to say you are in great hands when you're you're listening to that game with Matt Keene.
Matt Keene.
He is a great announcer. I'd like to say thank you for joining us for the first edition of CHS Sports Weekly. This has been Bryce Dowd.
I've been Jacob Spence.
Signing off.